Welcome to this week's rant, which is about this, and these. But before we get going on this week's rant, normal parish notices apply. So, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, why haven't you subscribed? Hit that subscribe button now! If you want to be notified when I post new content to the channel, go over and hit that bell icon. It will flag you up an alert. Consider supporting the channel. Go over to patreon.com. Small donation really helps the channel in terms of funding new equipment, old equipment to be restored, etc., etc. That's www.patreon.com/TheMusicTechGuyUK. The address will be down here somewhere. And we are still in the midst of COVID-19, so the message has changed. It's now stay alert, stay safe, wash the pinkies until Boris tells us otherwise. But now, back to the channel. I wasn't doing too well this week. The next door neighbours to the house share have decided just behind this wall behind me to install a jacuzzi. And I have to be honest and say, this is not Sunday, this is actually Monday, because I recorded this yesterday and they were in the jacuzzi, and all you can hear on the recording, unfortunately, is the jacuzzi rumbling away in the background and them having a party next door. So I decided I couldn't use that, so we're re-recording yesterday's rant today. Now we've got all that sorted. The other thing I just want to sort of mention before I get going on the rant is, obviously I keep saying subscribe to the YouTube channel, which please carry on subscribing to the YouTube channel. But also it might be worthwhile subscribing to the Instagram and Facebook pages. And the reason I say that is because a number of you have either DM'd me directly or have left comments on the YouTube channel about getting copies of the media on the media library. And yes, I'm happy to supply media. I don't have any issue with that. But as I post media onto the sales outlet, I tend to post that onto my Instagram account and my Facebook page and my Twitter feed, and not obviously do it directly here. So I've obviously held this up and waved them around and said, look, this stuff's coming. But actually when it goes up for sale, I'm actually doing that and posting those notices up on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and Tumblr and a number of others. So if you want to be notified when I do publish content that's gone into the media library for disc replacement and that service, you really need to be subscribed to me on Instagram. And it's dead easy, because the Instagram is the Music Tech Guy UK. Remember, it's the Music Tech Guy UK. There is somebody else who's got Music Tech, unfortunately. The Facebook page is exactly the same, the Music Tech Guy UK, so if you go and look for me. My Twitter feed is, funny enough, exactly the same. So please at least subscribe to one of the others. Probably the Instagram feed is probably the easiest. If you go over and subscribe to the Instagram feed, when I post the discs going up for sale, you'll get notified, and then you can see them, and then you can go across to the media outlet and you can buy them if you really want to. So it just makes things more easier, because as I say, a number of you have DM'd me directly, and rather than me sort of continuing to sort of respond to you, which I don't mind doing, but it's sort of kind of it just means it's an easier mechanism for me to get the message out to you guys when you ask those specific sort of questions. So, this week, I said this week was about 3 things, and I've got them listed over here. So the first thing is, do you remember last week, and I said that I had pretty much snookered myself in buying some software for the CX5M computer that I've got. That's the Yamaha music computer, for those of you who don't know what CX5M is. It's a music computer that Yamaha made back in the early 80s based on the sort of Japanese MSX computer design and Microsoft Basic version 2. It was a universal design, so it was kind of forerunner before the PC turned up and everyone sort of switched to Windows. The Japanese manufacturers all got together and they made this MXX format, which actually, looking back on it now, was actually an incredibly good idea. The problem was it was very popular in the Far East. It just never took off in the UK and the US, apart from specific things like the CX5M. There were a number of those computers around, which was sort of geared towards music production in the early 80s. Anyway, that was a long story to get me to this point, which is I bought some software and it was on tape. So I have acquired a tape drive for it. And you're going to turn around to me and say, well, you know, tape drives. Do you know what? I didn't have a tape drive. I got rid of my tape drives years ago because I don't have any cassettes. I may have some cassettes down in the lockup, up in the lockup from where I am at the moment. But I haven't listened to cassettes for a long, long time. And I got rid of the last of my cassette players, it's got to be 15 years ago. The car is all MP3 now and Bluetooth from the phone and what have you. And I don't know anyone who's actually got a cassette player in their car anymore, or anybody I work with anyway. I mean, I'm sure some young kids who've got their first car, etc., may still have cassette decks in cars. But even them, you know, they're pretty much on CD players now rather than cassette players. Anyway, this arrived, and this was the cheapest cassette player I could pretty much buy. It's brand new, and I got it from a vintage DJ shop. And I can put details underneath this if you want to go and buy yourself this. It wasn't particularly expensive. I think it was around about the 25 UK pounds mark. But there were, I was looking on eBay and I was absolutely staggered that some people have these sort of simple cassette decks on eBay up for £100. And I'm sitting there thinking, my God, you know, they never cost £100 brand new. How can it be £100, you know, second hand? Especially all this time down the line. But that's where we are. People are trying to sell cassette decks with that sort of money. I mean, I can understand, you know, a sort of 19-inch rack hi-fi unit style cassette going for sort of a decent amount of money. I remember my ones that I sold were two Pro decks. I had two Pro decks, and I managed to get sort of a couple of £100 each for those 15 years ago. But they were professional cassette tape recorders. Very, very sturdy machines. But that is it. That has arrived. I haven't actually broken the seal on the box yet, so that's how it has arrived. I will get the CX5M out, and we can have a play and see what those new cartridges and new software looks like. That was the first thing. The second thing was related to the memory card. So, of course, the memory card's not here now. It's just over there. But I have been trying to make a video about that. I mean, in fact, I've snookered myself 3 times on this video, and I'll explain why. First time, I realised that I didn't actually have any microdrivers. That's what those are, to take the thing to pieces. So that was the first issue. Then the second issue was that then I took it to pieces and realised that it was actually a battery size that I don't possess in my Bitsure box. So I had to go and get some batteries of the right size. And normally, to be honest, nowadays, you know, if I want those sort of coin cell batteries, I normally hop down to Halfords in the UK, which is a sort of UK automotive store, because the 3.2, the 2.5, and the 16 are all standard batteries that go in car fobs for getting in and out of your car. And they sell Duracell. So, and people turn around to me and say, why do you buy Duracell? And I always say, well, I don't always buy Duracell. I buy Duracell and Panasonic, if I'm honest. And the reason why I buy Duracell and Panasonic is I tend to find that they last the longest in these machines. And especially if I'm not going to use the machine for a period of time, I've got sort of quite a lot of knowledge that battery is not going to leak all over the board because it is from one of those two manufacturers. I'm not saying other manufacturers' batteries are worse or better, but I just tend to find that Duracell and Panasonic tend to work for me, so that's why I buy them. So that was the second thing. And the third thing was I did the whole video yesterday of me doing the battery replacement, only to find out that I actually hadn't plugged the sound into the camera. So I take the mega loser sign this week, and I get the Homer Award. That video is just sent to try me. I'm sure it was. It was one of those videos which was the easiest video in the world to do, and it was the easiest video in the world for me to cock up, and I cocked it up royally. So I probably will remake the video, but I can't obviously put the battery in because I've already put the battery in. You get the drift. Yeah. Anyway, so going on to workshop tools. And I know some people say, it's a music channel, why are you talking about workshop tools? Actually, these are really important. So this was the microdriver set that I have just purchased. Okay, and I'll tell you why it's taken me a couple of weeks to purchase them. So in years gone by, I've had microdrivers, and those microdrivers have come in sets of typically around 10 microdrivers with 10 different blades on the end. So whether that be flat drive, posi drive, or something else. And my last set, I think, was about 10, if I remember correctly. And it was a steel shaft with a ribbed shaft, effectively. But they were thinner. They were probably about as thin as that end there. And I always found them difficult to work with because for my fat little fingers, trying to sort of like work with those very thin drivers, it hurt. That's sort of kind of the area where you're doing a lot of that on small boards. I needed something slightly thicker, and I found that other sets, and I've been through a number of sets over the years, were better because even though you're probably talking no more than, I don't know, a couple of millimeters either side of that in terms of width, they actually are better for my hands. Okay, so that was the sort of kind of the first thing, was the old drivers against the new drivers, and the shaft, and that's what I was looking for. I was looking for a slightly thicker shaft, and this has got a slightly thicker shaft and a slightly thicker shaft at the bottom there. The second thing I was really kind of looking for at the time was I was looking for a good socket, and I'll explain this in a sec. So this is the socket. There you go. And I can put the socket in directly there as well. So I can take one of the attachments and it will either go directly in there like that, or it goes in there, that goes in there, gives it a little bit of and then it goes in like so. So that was rather better for me because it's got interchangeable heads. And this particular set that I've bought, if I put those down there for a sec, and so if I go like that set there, and I'm not sure it's going to come across on camera actually if I do that, but you can see that it's got every single one is individually itemized on there, what size they are. There are actually 56 different attachments in there for all manner of things, some of which I have never seen before. So I was looking at this yesterday, and there is a triangle drive there. Do that like that. I'm not sure that comes across very well. I've never seen a screw like that. And then there is this sort of thing here, which looks like some sort of pitchfork. But I'm imagining that is for where the screw has like a dome in it to stop people actually getting in there. It's like more like a security screw. So that's what that's for. I do know what that is for. And then they have these sort of bolts type screws. So that's a hexagonal type screw. And then they have the other side of it, which is the sort of hollowed out bit. So these are the star screws. So there you go. There's a star screw, but it's got a hollow in the end. I'm not sure that really is coming out to camera, but there's a hollow in the end because quite often these small electrical star screws have like a bubble in them to stop you getting a standard star attachment in there, unless you've got one of these. And then I've got sort of things in here that I've never seen before. That's sort of like effectively a prodder of some description. Probably would break the skin if I pushed it hard enough. So yes, there's a number in there, and the other thing I liked about this is it's got the little electrical sockets for small screws that are screwing boards down and what have you, or nuts that are holding boards down. So that was the reason why. That was another good reason. Wasn't the reason why I bought it, but that was a bonus, really. And then the other bonuses were that this particular set comes with a flexible piece. So I can do that, and that, like that. And then if I do that, I'm not sure where that comes across, but you can see the end turning. Okay, very, very handy. That's come in recently. Because I've had to go and buy it. That goes in there. And then finally, the other piece that was another bonus with this particular set is that bit there, which over here somewhere I've got. So there's a standard screwdriver attachment for a power drill. And as you can see, that fits in there nicely. And then one of these end pieces will fit in there nicely if I have to use a power driver for some reason. But there you go. So it was actually a really good buy with a really good universal set of screws, attachments, bits, etc. So that was, I had to wait for that to turn up before I could use the battery in because I needed the micro drivers for the right side. Now, again, there is actually another bonus to this as well, which I didn't realise at the time, and that is that there is a hole through the middle there. And the hole allows me to effectively put a Tommy bar through, which could be this, or it could be something else, and therefore you can get purchase on a screw before I drop it on the ground. Didn't go like this in rehearsal. But this is probably the best set of these I've ever had, I have to be honest. So, a really good investment from a toolbox perspective. So, micro drivers, really, really useful. And then the third thing I was going to talk about this week are some things that arrived through the post this week. And these are service manuals, and I quite often put service manuals up and say, here's a service manual. So I've got a service manual for the Yamaha TX16W, the D50, the Roland D70, and the S550. So, sampler, series keyboard, sampler. And people quite often turn around to me and say, why do you can get all this online? And you're quite right, you can get all this online. The problem with online copies of this sort of material is that it all depends on the numpty who copied it. And I say that in a very endearing way. So the first thing you've got here is you've got this piece of paper. This is just out of the 16W. Okay, this is the full circuit diagram, okay, of what that particular sampler looks like inside from an electronics point of view. All the PCBs, all the circuitry, everything. That's all the detail in here, right from MIDI ports, which I think are over here somewhere. No, they're not. They might be over this side. Anyway, there's the MIDI. So there's the MIDI implementation. There you go, down there. That's the MIDI ports in and out, and that's the MIDI board, and it comes in. Okay. So first of all, I've got that. And that's the original size of that. So that, when I unfold that, is going to be something like an A1 or maybe A0. For those of you who don't understand paper sizes, this is the printout of the SY85 instructions, okay, which I haven't got in the original format. This size is A4. A3 is double it, A2 is double it again, A1 is double it again, A0 is double it again, okay? So they're all sort of basically dimensions of this A4, and then there's A5 and A6, which are smaller. In the States, you have a slightly different sizing format. I'm not quite sure whether you follow the sort of A convention that we do, because I know your letter sizing is slightly different. From my time being over there and working. So that's the first thing, is It comes in format, so that is actually an American style format. Whereas these are, I believe, in A4 format. They are in A4 format, yeah. And first of all, you get that. You get that is correctly sized, so that will have all the right dimensions on it. The second thing you do when you buy these things is you tend to get, let me see if I can find one quickly in here. Yeah. So you get a circuit board diagram. Now, that will be scaled. I can actually make another circuit board off that circuit board diagram if I wanted to, by taking that circuit board where all the tracks are on it, taking that, making a copy of that, taking that to a PCB manufacturer and getting them to basically print off the same board again, right, if I needed to. So if that circuit board was completely knackered, I could, if I wanted to, repair it by basically getting that remade. And down here are all the parts that go on that circuit board and the polarities and everything else. So there you go, there's another one. There's more of the logic board there. So that's the reason why I want the originals, if I can get hold of the originals. Because if I come to do replacements or repairs on these things in years to come, then I've actually got the originals that I can do the repairs from. And again, if I look at, this is the D70, there's the display board. Okay, there's a circuit diagram of the display board there with all the tracks on it. And again, I could, if I wanted to, get those to a circuit board manufacturer, and I could get those PCBs rebuilt from scratch. Okay, there's the main motherboard assembly there for the D70. Okay, and similarly with the S50, if I flip through here, there you go, straight away, there's a circuit board. And as I say, they are correctly scaled, and you can just build straight off them. And that's the reason why I buy them. And I have, for most of the equipment I've got either the originals, if I can get hold of them, or I've got very, very good copies. And the problem with when you buy it, when you go online and people have PDF'd them, and it's really great that people have PDF'd them, and it's a great source of information because I use that as well as you guys use that those PDFs. But if they haven't copied them, or if they've rescaled them when they've copied the piece of paper, so the classic one would be taking an A4 piece of paper and compressing it so it prints out on US letter. If they've done that, then if you were to try and reproduce the circuit board off of that, you would get a circuit board that didn't fit. So you can see, and you wouldn't know that that was a problem until you actually built the circuit board, because once the circuit board's been built and you go to lay into the place, all the things like the holes where it attaches to the chassis, they won't line up, or the holes where it attaches to another board, or the pins won't line up, or the classic one would be things like connectors, for argument's sake. So if you put a standard 34-pin ribbon connector on the edge of the board, which is what it says, you find the 34-pin ribbon connector won't fit on the board because all the positions will be slightly out of alignment. So the originals, you don't get that. Do you know what, this week I didn't think I was going to actually speak for more than 10 minutes, and I have spoken for far too long. So at this point, you know what, it's a live long and prosper, guys. See you next week. Remember about the Instagram, the Twitter, and the Facebook. So Instagram and all the others, it's The Music Tech Guy UK. The Music Tech Guy UK. Yeah, go over there, subscribe to me on those platforms, and you will get notified when I do things like bring new discs to the Disc Media Library. Okay? I shall see you next week. Stay safe. Bye-bye.